KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is called First Things First. And my very first thing today and every day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and turning up the volume. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Happy Malcolm X El-Hajj Malik Shabazz 100th birthday. That is today. I know the festivities were going on here in LA all weekend and will continue throughout the week, as they are really worldwide. It's incredible to see the outpouring of love, honor, respect, and commemoration for Malcolm X that's happening in cities and counties and nooks and crannies worldwide, not just in the United States where he had his greatest impact. So this is the way we do the show on a Monday. Hour one, we look local, what's happening over here, left coast side of town, Pacific Ocean side, as I like to say. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive on a person or persons of interest, a hot topic, etc. Today, we'll be talking with author and poet Kevin Powell, who's written a tribute to Malcolm X, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive on his life and legacy. I invite you to share your reflections on Malcolm X. How did he impact your life? How is he impacting it now? And how do you see his influence on the struggles, the liberation of Black Americans or freedmen or whatever y'all calling yourselves today, and or the worldwide global struggle? I know that when I was in Ghana, I've been there twice now, I've seen tributes to him just as a matter of fact, kind of fact of life kind of thing in various places, at museums, at the Slave River, a scene river there in Ghana, where they have tributes to him and W.E.B. Du Bois and others, as well as in Nigeria, most strikingly at the shrine, which was built by Fela Kuti in Lagos. Lagos is a big city. The shrine is a party place, kind of a community party place for the working class and the poor, where anyone can get in. There's no cover charge. There's music playing constantly. Fela Kuti's son, Femi Kuti, has a band there, and African dancers and local artists are playing. And they have tributes to the ancestors, including a huge picture of Malcolm X there, and people party, and they're selling weed, and they're people are selling, snacks, and it reminds me of Lamert Park a little bit on the weekends, but one of the ancestors that they have prominently displayed there is Malcolm X. So, of course, I would love to hear your reflections, your thoughts, your personal memories, and our thoughts. KBLA delegation, all of us that make up this delegation, working our way through the world on why Malcolm holds such a particular place of fear in this country. Why we often see mainstream media and corporate entities honoring Malcolm X, not honoring Malcolm X, honoring Martin Luther King, perhaps, or Rosa Parks, sometimes even a sanitized version of Harriet Tubman. But we seldom see a reflection on Malcolm X. In fact, it's almost as if there is an effort in America to erase his legacy and his life. And why do you suppose that is? I have my thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Please forgive my voice. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, but I was not going to not show up on Malcolm X's birthday. My friend and colleague, Akili, affectionately or famously known as Baba Akili, is a lead organizer with Black Lives Matter LA. He's a field coordinator for the national entity, which is BLM Grassroots, and the founder of the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute. Has been taking part in an international convening to honor the 100th birthday of Malcolm X, and he is he's on the phone now somewhere in the world Where in the world is Baba Akili? Good morning, Akili.
Good morning, Dominique, and good morning to the KBLA family. I'm right here in Los Angeles, and I'm glad that you had enough regard for El-Shabazz and Malcolm X to show up because we would miss you this morning. So I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you. So you've been to a convening for Malcolm X. That's like an international gathering, right? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, yes. I was in Grenada, which is the home of the mother of Malcolm X, Miss Louise Langdon Little. And I was there with an international group of people for two reasons. One, to commemorate her, and there was land that was purchased where she was born and lived, and we put a monument there. But we also talked about the Ghanaian Revolution and how that was connected to the concept of beliefs and ideas that Malcolm promoted. So it was a moving and very inspiring set of activities. We had workshops. We talked about the impact of Malcolm both yesterday and today. We made a pilgrimage to where his mother was born and placed a very nice monument there that, and then had people speak. It was all around one of the most moving, interesting, and beautiful activities that I participated in relationship to Malcolm. And so, and for me, Malcolm holds a special place. Our lives paralleled in the fact that we both wound up going to prison. We both wound up becoming more educated and enlightened in prison, and came out committed to improving conditions for Black people. So Malcolm is special to me. In my house, they say I may not remember all my children's birthday, but I always remember May 19th. So it's important to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons that, well, we'll get into that later, but you mentioned the parallels in your lives. And I remember we've spoken on that before. When you discovered Malcolm X, how, talk about how that changed perhaps your trajectory and how you perceived yourself as someone who had been, what is the term we're meant to use now, justice impacted?
Well, yes. And I think for me, and certainly many people in my generation, between the mid '60s through the mid '70s, Malcolm was a crowning figure for us because he talked what we believed. He talked what we thought needed to happen, and he talked the kind of positions that we felt were necessary in the Black world at the time. And many of us identified with him. And certainly, like I said, for me, who was able to turn my life around in the same way he was able to turn his life around, it was significant. But, there's a couple of things that always stood out for me as I listened to Malcolm and learned more about it. He opposed the Vietnam War before anybody. And I remember when the first time I heard him, when I got out of prison, I used to listen to these big reel-to-reel tapes of him speaking. A friend of mine who was very much involved in the movement at the time had these tapes of him. And I, of course, read his autobiography when I was in prison. And I certainly knew about Malcolm before I went, but I really didn't understand the impact until I went to prison myself and came out. But what he did was not only highlight and point out the contradictions in the U.S. and the racism, but talked about what needed to be done as a people, how we needed to, as he said, wake up, clean up, and stand up. That became a very common phrase for me for many years. So his transformation, I think, is one of the most important, I think, in activities that certainly gave inspiration, to people like me, and I think hundreds of thousands of other young black men.
Yeah, I mean, because he would be 100 today, so he's clearly older than you by quite a bit. But that I feel like generation after generation of people have been inspired by him, particularly folks who many times, the ones I call unlikely voters, the ones that society typically doesn't count on, and many times writes off, that to show how influential, how important, how powerful they are in transforming, particularly in having a transformative impact on our society. Akili's with me, and you're welcome in as well. 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580, as we celebrate the 100th birthday of El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. Excited to learn that Tavis Smiley has his eldest daughter, my play auntie, Ms. Shabazz, Atala Shabazz, on next show, next program in our cycle. I can't wait to hear his hat as a historian matched with her unparalleled understanding of her father. She was the only child old enough to actually she was a tiny little kid, but she was there and witnessed his assassination. And clearly that shaped her life in all kinds of ways. And so I'm looking forward to hearing her sharing her reflections on this day on the Tavis Smiley Show. Right now, though, I'm inviting you to share yours with me, Akili, and Miles on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's.
The Parkinson's Foundation knows that the disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them.
If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers.
We can help you understand the disease
and give you tips for living a better life.
Find your answers at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You really about to do it?
40 acres and a mule, this is bigger than the music.
You really about to do it?
Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
Who among us doesn't like black music? But Kendrick is right. This moment is so much bigger than music. These are serious times. We've got serious problems, and we need serious people who understand that slogans are not solutions. When you want substantial and sober analysis about things that matter to you and the ones you love, this is where you turn. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Baby!
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
If Martin Luther King, Roy Wilkins, or any of these compromising Negroes who say exactly what the white man wants to hear is interviewed anywhere in the country, you don't get anybody to offset what they say. But whenever a black man stands up and says something that white people don't like, then the first thing that white man does is run around to try and find somebody to say something to offset what has just been said. This is natural, but it is done. Do you think that Negroes are going to continue to live in a society where dogs can be sicked on them at will and not do something about it? You're out of your mind.
Is there anyone here that would like to comment after having heard what Mr. X said?
KBLA Talk 1580, that kind of exchange, that moment of Malcolm X in the press reflects on a question, Akili, that I posed at the beginning of the show, which is, why does he have such a special place, and I put air quotes around special, in U.S. mainstream history and journalism, where it's almost like they're afraid of this man. 60 years after his death, still, you don't see the kind of honoring and commemoration of him that you see of Rosa Parks or MLK, even Harriet Tubman. And I recounted the story one day about how my child wanted to write about Malcolm X in elementary school instead of MLK, as they had been assigned, and was told no by the school. And I think that little clip that Miles just played reflects that tension. How do you see that?
Well, I think certainly for many of us, he spoke what we thought. He said what we wanted to say. He, in many ways, showed up in ways that we wanted to show up. And one of the things, and that was, I think, attractive to us. He told the truth. He spoke truth to power. He talked to us about being a whole person, not just being a semblance of people, or the elements of people, a whole person. And quite frankly, we all like that. And this is not to disparage or take anything away from the Martin Luther Kings and all the rest who were around that did things. But they did not speak forcefully. They did not speak directly and plainly about, one, our conditions, two, our relationship to white people, and three, openly and honestly about racism, the denial and deprivation of a people's history, humanity, and right to freedom based exclusively upon race. They all made reference to it. But Malcolm talked openly and honestly about it and the impact of racism and what it has done to us as a people, what it has done to us, and that we needed to stand up. And one of the benefits of this weekend, I was in the presence of Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And one of the things that Garvey talked about is up united people. Well, Malcolm took that and said, up united people, connect with Africa. You got a long, rich history. You don't have to accept this. Stand up. And like I said, that whole thing of wake up, clean up, stand up, which he got from the Nation of Islam, because that's what they did with young people at the time. And the fact that he would say those kind of things, that inspired people, that made you feel good. Even in the midst of the worst of Jim Crow, when black people were not, you could be arrested, convicted, and lynched, even if you looked differently at a white person. Here's a man who's standing up and saying, not only you can look them in the eye, you can look each other in the eye and be proud of who you are. And I think, that kind of attitude inside us. His statement about if you don't stand for something, if a man doesn't stand for something, he'll fall for anything. I have a T-shirt with that I wear all the time, and that's on my it's on my wall in my in almost every office I've been in for the last 50-some years. So Malcolm, I think, like I said, represented the best of us, but the strongest best of us the strongest and most articulate best of us, and his willingness to speak truth to power.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I also think in that time, I mean, from what I gather, obviously I wasn't there, but it seems like there was more fear of white people. There was more, you know, you weren't allowed to say the things that he said. You weren't allowed to have the attitude that he had. People were lynched for much, much less. And he was clearly unafraid. I love the way and for me as a journalist or a commentator, maybe more than journalist, I'm inspired by him because he was never afraid to say that thing. And he always used humor and analogies and clever, crazy examples to make his point, which left some of these white journalists flummoxed and unable to bounce back. I was definitely channeling him during my work, battling Republicans on Fox Soul. I always thought about Malcolm and how he had a way of just turning a phrase that drove home a point like a dagger. And I always aspired to be that way. And I think, of course, at much less risk, Molly Bell says, the fact that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King both only lived 39 years. Speaking of parallels, Baba Akili, much love, listening, blessing for my 78 years. And that is true. It's crazy when you think about the fact that he was murdered, months before his 40th birthday. And here we are 60 years later, still talking about him, and America's still afraid.
You're right. And we've tried to kind of whitewash him and turn him into a civil rights leader. One of the things that many of us admired the most about Malcolm was he took the conditions of black people and said that this is human rights issues, the way that black people are being treated. No human should be treated this way. And he fought to elevate our struggle just from the confines of the U.S., but to expand them to the context of the world. And so he fought for human rights. He was a human rights fighter. One of the things that came out in our pilgrimage over the weekend, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Patrice Lumumba, a number of revolutionaries were all died at 39. David Abdullah, one of the people who was involved and supported the revolution in Grenada, talked about that and how these great black leaders all were killed, all died rather at 39. And I think the fact that you could see the if you read any of the papers of the FBI and on all that's public information now, there was certainly a major concern about Malcolm. The fact that they spied on him all the time, they put agents in and around him, to try to undermine him. I think it speaks to the kind of messenger he was. He is, even still to this day. I mean, the fact that every day I wear a U.S. Malcolm X stamp, it's one of the three things in life I thought I'd never see. I thought I'd never see a U.S. Malcolm X stamp. I thought I'd never see Nelson Mandela out of prison and president of South Africa. And I thought I'd never see myself working for an elected official. All three have happened. But I wear that Malcolm X stamp to remind me of Malcolm. And I often think, what would Malcolm say? What would Malcolm do? How would he do this? The second reason was to be grounded in his struggle and the fact that he stood up and spoke out. And then finally, to be connected to those times and periods that I lived through Jim Crow, where black people were not encouraged to stand up. If anything, they were supported to sit down.
Up against news, traffic, and sports, but we'll continue this conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Morehouse College is honoring one of its students who died in a 1930 lynching. Sophomore Dennis Hubert was killed after being approached by a group of 7 white men. A jar with dirt from the site of the murder has been preserved with his name inscribed as a memorial. Morehouse gave Hubert a posthumous degree during the school's commencement. 7 inmates are still on the run after breaking out of a New Orleans jail on Friday. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry says the reward is now $20,000 per inmate, with help from the FBI, ATF, Crime Stoppers, and state leaders. The escaped men face serious charges, including murder and domestic abuse. And the FAA is investigating a power outage at Houston's Hobby Airport in Texas Sunday that delayed flights. The air traffic control tower lost power around 1:15 p.m., causing delays of up to 30 minutes before backup systems kicked in. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to Angels manager Ron Washington. He won the battle between the only black managers in Major League Baseball. The Angels beat Dave Roberts and the Dodgers Sunday 6-4 to complete a 3-game sweep for the Angels at Dodger Stadium. It was the Angels' first sweep over the Dodgers since 2010. The LA Sparks lost their home opener Sunday to the Minnesota Lynx 89-75. Kelsey Plume had 18 points for the Sparks. Plume has 55 points in the Sparks' first 2 games. The Sparks are 1-1. The NBA's Final Four is set. The Minnesota Timberwolves will face Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals. OKC is the number 1 seed in the West. Minnesota is 6. Game 1 is Tuesday in OKC. New York and Indiana will meet up in the Eastern Conference Finals. New York, the number 3 seed, has home court advantage. Indiana is number 4. Game 1 is Wednesday in New York. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Mr. Muhammad teaches us that man is judged by his conscious behavior, and the conscious behavior collectively of the white race toward non-white people has been the type of behavior that is practiced only by a devil or devils.
So then, in essence, you feel that white men per se are devils.
He teaches us that God told him that the white race is a race of devils.
Teaching this kind of a doctrine of hate and a doctrine of separationism, is bound to inflame the passions of people, wouldn't you imagine?
The deeds that the white man has committed against black people is what is inflaming black people. There's no teaching inflames anyone. It's what you do to a man that inflames him. And if the white man wants black people to love him, then he should do something to warrant that love.
KBLA Talk 1580 as we mark the centennial of the birthday of Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. And Akili is with me, just back from a convening in Grenada to honor the 100-year anniversary. The thing about Malcolm X, it also reminds me a little bit of my own father, is you have to track the trajectory of his consciousness, his evolving politics over the course of his lifetime. Any snapshot in time is just a snapshot in time. However, your reflections on what you just heard.
Well, I think one of the things that Malcolm did, both because of his own personality and the teaching of the Nation of Islam, is that he constantly had to defend or fend off this position that if you speak forcefully, that if you speak honestly, and if you speak directly about the conditions of black people, that somehow or another you're being hateful, you're being less than accommodating. And I think the way he always handles that, in 1962, when he came out to Los Angeles, and he spoke a lot about this, that his movement was they tried to paint as a hateful movement, and Malcolm talked about how to, who taught you to hate yourself, and how whites have certainly hated black people, but also supported and advanced this notion that we should hate ourselves. And so the fact that he was always, and the Nation of Islam was painted as anti-white and hateful, is an example that we can draw directly today with Black Lives Matter. I remember when we first started the Black Lives Matter almost 12 years ago now, that one of the first responses was, well, all lives matters, and you all are being too aggressive, too assertive, too. They didn't say hate because they knew they couldn't get away with that, but you're not being good, respectable Negroes. And so Malcolm laid the foundation and the groundwork for us to be able to be unapologetically black. Yeah, it's a great point. And with folks reflecting in the YouTube chat, which is at KBLA 1580, some really, really great comments. They're going by so fast that I can't even read them all. But the idea, I was reflecting on that this morning a little bit, that Malcolm X, and you were also speaking on it, and Dr. King and other leaders, black liberation leadership worldwide was assassinated, snuffed out. I think about Fred Hampton and others. Just what community, what ethnic group, what liberatory movement has seen the kind of surgical removal of its leadership, both thought leadership and boots on the ground leadership, other than Black Americans and Black people globally? And certainly, you can trace both our history here in the U.S. With the development and constant effort at liberation, and any person, any time that stood up to speak about that liberation and to advance that liberation was targeted. I think Native Americans, indigenous people here, had to suffer through that also.
Good point.
But Black people have been targeted. Black leaders have been targeted because we are not supposed to rise up. We are supposed to accept conditions as they are. We are supposed to, and that's the key element of racism, that you have to accept your second-class status. You have to accept your unequalness. You have to accept the fact, and you can see it today in this administration with all their efforts to erase anything positive or strong about Black people. By the end of this year, Black people's accomplishments will try to erase them. I mean, we have fought to keep them and advance them, but this administration will try to erase that. And the reason they try to do that is because, one, of white supremacy, two, because of their own racism. But if our story is told, the fact that we've advanced, that we've thrived, that we've contributed to this country, that smacks in the face of the kind of white supremacist position that exists, that somehow or another white people invented everything of meaning and advanced all good things in the world. And if you look at how we, once again, have thrived under the worst conditions, we have thrived, we have developed, and we have contributed significantly to this country.
And and I think that's part of it too, Akili. I think part of it is because not only have we contributed significantly to this country, it would be a boring, dry, broke place if it wasn't for us, but also because our leadership on the world stage makes us dangerous. I think that one of the reasons why our leaders have been systematically assassinated, taken down, undermined, and now that what they do is they just try to discredit, is because of our leadership and influence on the entire world. The fact that there is a huge Malcolm X portrait in Ghana at the Slave River, that there is a huge Malcolm X portrait at the shrine in Lagos, Nigeria, and other places that I've traveled, not just him, but other leaders, Black American leaders, that we are like the moral compass of the world. And so I feel like that is part of the reason for the targeting of our leadership. They're always trying to kneecap us and make sure that we don't inspire other revolutions and other movements.
And you can certainly see, and like building on your point, when I was in Ghana, I wore a Malcolm X T-shirt, and Black people would come up to me and compliment me on that, and how they understood Malcolm's contribution. And certainly when you go to the W.E.B. Du Bois Center, there's a picture of him and Du Bois's wife, that he's there talking with them, and pictures of him all over the center. He had an impact. He made an impact and still is having an impact today. The fact that over the weekend, right here in Los Angeles, thanks to Tory Reese and others, who have been fighting and trying to get this done, Malcolm is being recognized, the Malcolm X corridor, and the fact that we celebrate him. I remember, in the early 70s, the Kuzaliwa, I remember, we young people would walk out of school and went to celebrate his birthday. I have been coordinating activities of kind or another over the past 50 years, and for as we say, for his Kuzaliwa. So the fact that even to this day we see the X, and I appreciate the fact that Spike Lee made that movie. That was tremendously helpful in terms of...
Oh, you going to bring that up?
Really,
now we got to get into the whole controversy. My father was incredibly critical of that movie. He felt like it undermined Malcolm X's legacy and gave a simplistic... And also he did not agree with the portrayal that the nation were the sole perpetrators of his demise.
I have been around your father many times, and that was a sensitive point that I was, when you brought it up, and I remember him talking about it and saying that there needed to be a much more accurate, a much more commercially have been approached to telling the story of Malcolm X, not he didn't say, if I remember, he didn't say watered down, but the real story of how forceful he was. The other point that your father made was that they didn't spend enough time on his struggles, both internally and externally. That once he came out, what he did and how he built that. The other thing that the film didn't do, and your father used to talk about this all the time, is that he literally built the Nation of Islam. When he got out and joined the nation, they had a few mosques around the country. By the time they left, they had over 50 mosques, and that was primarily due to Malcolm. And your father felt that that story wasn't told as forcefully as he and many others felt. The other thing about your father was around when Malcolm was around.
Right. Yeah.
And was
also an actor.
Yes, and impacted by him.
He was about 9 years younger than Malcolm X, but he was definitely around. Yeah. And Malcolm inspired him, and of course the assassination of Malcolm X inspired my dad, Mary Baraka, a.k.a. Leroy Jones, to launch the Black Arts Movement. That was the spark that moved my dad from downtown as part of the Beat Poets movement to uptown Harlem and the establishing of the Black Arts Movement.
Which I think at some point we need to talk more extensively about. I saw the movie. I thought it was good. I would have liked to seen some other things, but we can talk more about that. But I know I've been in the presence when your father did talk very forcefully about the movie. And like I said, I think one of the things that one of the critiques he raised was that it didn't give Malcolm enough credit for literally building the Nation of Islam.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say forcefully. Yes, it was very forceful, but I think that, we can talk about this when we come forward, and I'm looking forward to talking with poet and author Kevin Powell, who will be with me in the last hour here in studio. How do we protect the historic legacy? I know my dad was very also forceful about condemning that Manning Marable book about Malcolm X, and how there's this revisionism that goes on where people decide once a person's dead and can no longer defend themselves to do these biographical tomes that can undermine their legacy or color it in a way that's not really intellectually honest. How do we protect against that? And how do we, as historians or activists or truth tellers, how do we make sure that we are accessing the right sources and our understanding of not just these figures, but what they did and why it's important to us today? All of that is coming up on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least like to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Be heard. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back indeed. We are celebrating on the mic, celebrating in our minds, bodies, and spirits, the 100th heavenly solar return of El-Shabazz, a.k.a. Malcolm X. Akili is here. He was in Grenada yesterday, I think, celebrating and convening. Yes. And with folks from all over the world. I want to go to Carl from L.A., though. Carl, thank you for your patience. You are on the air.
Hey, good morning to you, Dominique, and to your guest. Could you ask your guest and Malcolm X's daughter when she comes on to elaborate on the book, Martin and Malcolm and America, a Dream or a Nightmare, when they get some time? And I remember, like your guest said, when Malcolm came here, I was still riding bicycles, though. I thought they would have that army here in Los Angeles, but he left and went back to the East Coast, and he was gone. Thank you for giving me time, Dominique. Bye.
Thank you, Carl. That'll be Ms. Shabazz, Ambassador El-Shabazz, will be on with Tavis, so I won't be able to ask her anything today, but I'm sure Tavis will have it more than covered. He's such an accomplished historian, Mr. Smiley. I mean, that may be one of his stronger suits. But your reflections on what Carl said, Akili?
Well, I didn't get all of it, but one of the things that I learned this weekend, that Malcolm came from strong roots. His mother was a Garveyite. His mother wrote for the paper and was considered a very good writer and speaker herself. His mother was a very accomplished, educated, and talented person who would challenge the orthodoxy of white supremacy. So when they would come home from school, she would review what they learned and then give them the right information about what really happened. And I raised that to connect it to the last point, that Malcolm, both before, during his life, and after, he has been, I think, shaped, molded, and presented in ways that have tried to help our people. And I think Carl's point is well taken, and I'm hoping that I will certainly be listening out for the next segment with Tavis, because I think to hear his daughter talk about the impact that Malcolm still has is very valuable.
Yeah, particularly, as she applies it today. It's interesting you bring that up, because I have a theory that children of the movement are one of the strongest legacies of all of the protest marching, consciousness raising that has been done by our ancestors. People say, that protesting and marching didn't get us anything. Well, first of all, no, it's gotten us a lot of things. But second of all, I mean, the fact that Malcolm X himself was a child of the movement, because his mother was one, and then he produced his own children that are doing incredible work, and so it goes. I mean, my grandmother was an activist in her church, leads to and my great grandfather Enoch Archie, came out of slavery to be a county commissioner. My dad was a child of the movement. Now he's got 9 of us that are, all part of the progress, including my brother Ras Baraka. So I think that's a great point. Events are planned in New York, Los Angeles, Indianapolis, Dakar, Senegal, and so many other places, Washington, D.C., Omaha, Nebraska, and Jamaica, at the University of Nebraska. I mean, on and on it goes. They've restored one of the houses that he lived in briefly in Chicago. Where did people hail from at the conference you just returned from in Grenada?
Well, very quickly, two of them actually were there from Nebraska. And the Malcolm X Restoration Center that they've developed there, they've raised money, both public and private monies, to develop a site there. They talked about that. That was good to hear. The other thing was listening to Julius Garvin talk about his father. He was there. There were people from around the world. There was people from Nigeria that were there that were talking about the impact that Malcolm had in stirring their need to in many cases rebel against colonialism. And so there were the other thing that happened this weekend was a fuller and better understanding of the 1979 revolution in Grenada and the murder. Well, first of all, the heroism of Maurice Bishop and the murder of Maurice Bishop, and how this country decided that they did not want a revolutionary leader, a leader who was going to take their country in a direction that was much better for the people. And so we undermined, invaded, and wound up, supporting the murder of Maurice Bishop, and the fact that they're recapturing that. So the whole weekend wound up being one, the elevation of Malcolm's mother, and we learned a lot about her. We learned a lot about how she helped shape Malcolm's lives, and we also learned a lot about the revolution of Grenada. And I think the combination of the two, learning more about Louise Langdon Little, and learning about the struggles, successes of the people of Grenada, it was just tremendously moving. And so in the time that we had there, it was one of the best times I've had connected to Malcolm in my struggles here.
And that brings us also, to the way that he's inspired and fueled movements going back through the years, but also today. I love the parallel that you made with the Black Lives Matter movement and how being outside of the approval of sort of the respectability politics within the Black community. Someone said in the chat, Malcolm X didn't have a standing to protect, so he was free to be outspoken and unapologetic. I love the parallel that you drew from his legacy of by any means necessary to the Black Lives Matter grassroots legacy of the same.
Yes. And we see ourselves as certainly as children of Malcolm X. And once again, he captured and spoke what many of us felt. And I say many of us because I was around when I heard him, and you could feel the power of it. You could feel the kind of strength it gave you. Particularly living in a society where the oppression was heavy and in your face at the time. You mentioned, Fred Hampton, you mentioned other people, but, I was living in the South, and you knew your place in the South. The law, the practice, and the custom reinforced that. And then to hear somebody talk powerfully about, no, stand up. Don't sweet talk. Don't tell the white people what you really think. Nobody said that except Malcolm.
Yeah, that's a great point. Akili, thank you so much for joining this morning and sharing your reflections. We have Mindful Monday with Sahara Ali, and then the phone lines remain open as we honor Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz on his 100th anniversary. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Morehouse College is honoring one of its students who died in a 1930 lynching. Sophomore Dennis Hubert was killed after being approached by a group of 7 white men. A jar with dirt from the site of the murder has been preserved with his name inscribed as a memorial. Morehouse gave Hubert a posthumous degree during the school's commencement. 7 inmates are still on the run after breaking out of a New Orleans jail on Friday. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry says the reward is now $20,000 per inmate, with help from the FBI, ATF, Crime Stoppers, and state leaders. The escaped men face serious charges, including murder and domestic abuse. And the FAA is investigating a power outage at Houston's Hobby Airport in Texas Sunday that delayed flights. The air traffic control tower lost power around 1:15 p.m., causing delays of up to 30 minutes before backup systems kicked in. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving.
He won the battle.